My name is Andrew Gossel, and today I will be demonstrating how to perform preventative maintenance on a 판넨베그 DTS cooling unit. The first step in performing maintenance, repairs, or any work on a 판넨베그 DTS cooling unit is to verify that the power has been disabled from the unit. To do this, you want to use a meter and make sure the proper lockout-tagout procedures have been done. Now that you have ensured that power supply has been disconnected from the cooling unit and the unit has been locked out properly, we now want to remove the external cover from the 판넨베그 cooling unit. There are 2 Phillips head screws on the front, 2 on the right side, and 2 on the left side. You'll need a Phillips head screwdriver or a drill to do this. Once the Phillips head screws have been removed, just lift up on the cover and slide off. Set the cover out of your way so it doesn't get knocked over and damaged. Now that the cover has been removed, you have access to the condenser side of the refrigeration system, and you can see the condenser coil, the compressor, the filter dryer, the TXV, and the condensate evaporator tray. Above, you will locate the condenser fan. You will notice that all 판넨베그 cooling units are hermetically sealed, so you do not need gauges to perform preventative maintenance. You will locate a fill tube on the high side of the system and on the low side of the system, only to be tapped into if a problem is suspected. Oftentimes, dust, cottonwood, debris will clog the condenser coil. To clean this, use a soft bristled brush, starting from the top, and brush down. If the soft bristled brush does not do the trick and more force is needed, compressed air can be used, starting at the top, working your way to the bottom, to clean the coil. Now that the condenser coil has been cleaned, you'll want to examine the refrigeration system for any signs of oil. If oil is present on any surfaces, you will want to use the proper leak detection techniques to ensure that no leak is present. The evaporator coil is located inside the cooling unit and should not need to be cleaned, since it should not be exposed to ambient conditions. Each 판넨베그 DTS cooling unit is equipped with a condensate management system. You will find a condensate evaporator pan located in the bottom section of the 판넨베그 DTS cooling unit. It's located behind the compressor. Over time, water may cause algae to build up in the drain tube and in the evaporator pan. You will want to visually inspect the evaporator pan and the rubber hose overflow to make sure that it is not clogged and water can flow freely. The overflow tube that is attached to the condensate evaporator pan can be removed with a 5/16 nut driver or a flathead screwdriver. It is simply attached by a hose clamp. If the tube does need to be cleaned, remove the hose clamp and remove the tube. Next, we want to check the electrical components on the 판넨베그 cooling unit. You'll want to locate your condenser fan motor and carefully spin the motor, listening for any sign of bearing noise. Next, you'll want to stand on the side of the 판넨베그 cooling unit, carefully spin the condenser fan, and make sure the fan does not have any wobble during operation. Next, we're going to go inside the cabinet to locate the electrical section that's on the internal side of the 판넨베그 cooling unit. Now that we are inside the cabinet, you will see your evaporator fan, your electrical section, and your discharge air outlet. On the electrical section, the power supply cable should have been removed. There are 2 fuse holders and your door switch. To gain access to our e-box, you will simply remove the 2 Phillips head screws that are inside the cabinet. Once the Phillips head screws have been removed, the electrical section on our cooling unit will fold down inside the cabinet. Now that you have gained access to the electrical section on the Pannenbeck cooling unit, you will see the control board that has the fan capacitors plugged into it, the compressor contactor. The phase monitor will only be present on phase sensitive units, the transformer, and various other electrical components. Keep in mind, the electrical section on this unit might differ from other cooling unit models. The next item on the Pannenbeck preventive maintenance checklist is to check the fan capacitors. Both the condenser and the evaporator fan will have a corresponding plug-and-play capacitor that plugs into the control board. You will want to remove these capacitors and use a meter to verify that the capacitance is the same as the capacitance the capacitor is rated for. To reinstall the capacitor, simply line it up with the tabs on the control board and slide it in. Next, verify that all of the electrical connections are secure and that nothing has the potential to come loose. After this, you will want to verify that the legs on the contactor are not welded shut. The next step on the Pannenbeck preventative maintenance checklist is to make sure the dip switches located on the control board are set to the factory recommended set point of 95 degrees Fahrenheit. On the control board, you will see a temperature reference dip switch position chart. This will tell you where to set the dip switches. For factory recommended set point, number 1 will be off, number 2 will be on, and number 3 will be on. Please set these accordingly. Your Pannenbeck air conditioning unit will operate off of an internal temperature sensor. This temperature sensor is plugged onto the control board to the right-hand side of the dip switches. Please remove the white Molex connector by pulling it off the board and examine the wire pins to make sure the contact is metal on metal. Next on the Pannenbeck preventative maintenance checklist is to remove the evaporator fan motor or expose it depending on the application. In this application, you'll remove the 4 Phillips head screws that are on the corner. Once the 4 screws are removed, the fan will slide out of the cooling unit and be completely exposed. First, you want to verify that the wiring is still secure and there are no nicks or damage to the wire. Next, you will want to spin the fan carefully, making sure that the fan does not have any bearing noise or abnormal wobbling. Next, reinstall the fan by putting the 4 Phillips head screws back into place and close the electrical section by folding it up and putting the 2 Phillips head screws back into their places. Verify that the fan is secure and that the electrical section is secure so no damage can occur. The last step in the Pannenbeck preventative maintenance checklist is to reinstall the cover assembly on the cooling unit. To do this, lift the cover assembly up, slide on, and install the 6 Phillips head screws to secure the cover. Now that your cover assembly is reinstalled, you are able to reapply power to the cooling unit. Once power is reapplied, the cooling unit will go through the startup sequence and your Pannenbeck cooling unit should be ready to serve your electronic cooling needs yet again.